And welcome back to BrownsCast, waiting for next year podcast network. I'm back. I'm your host, Taylor Didrizak. As my co-host, Matt Milner, put a couple days ago, it's like I was on a hunger strike for almost 2 weeks. Wasn't intentional. I did skip out the recap last week because I was just like, it's not worth my time. And
Yeah, I
then
had to take the bullet
preview
for the whole party, pretty much like
Yeah.
you, Gervs, and Jed. I was the ones that had to take the bullets because it had to be said, but I was willing to do it because I was that mad.
Yeah, my issue is I'm not even mad anymore. I just don't care. I
And
think, and that's not exactly the place I wanted to start out, but like, I was mad 2 weeks ago. I was upset last week. I don't have the energy left to be upset anymore.
and I can't really blame you because like they're 1-5. They kind of followed a similar script of what of their losses have been so far, where they're just on the doorstep and they somehow don't score. And the defense has to hold down the fort to maybe give them another chance, and they just can't do it. That's just been the script the past 6 weeks, unfortunately. So it just feels like we're in the same cycle and we're just all like, what changes there going to be at some point, you know?
That's the thing. We've seen the same shit for a month. Actually, I mean, really, all 6 weeks. I mean,
Yeah, like outside of 2
nothing has
games, it's really been the
changed.
same game.
Nothing has changed. I mean, they've been blown out twice. They beat a team that is arguably worse, which is hard to believe, but they beat a team that's worse. And they've lost to a bunch of teams that are at the bottom of the NFL with them. If you go and look at the metrics, like the metrics on the Eagles are not good. On the Raiders are worse. The Giants scored 7 points on a terrible defense last night. Like,
it's just not pretty. It's just bad.
there's nothing you even hang your head on anymore.
Yeah, like all the conversation right now, at least on my feed and what I'm seeing, is what are they going to do with Deshaun? Because clearly, right now, 1-5, there's nothing better to talk about because it feels like everybody's pinpointing their frustration at him, and it's not.
Is
It's
it
not.
wrong?
It's not wrong. It's not like you have like Robert Mays, who's an athletic writer, who basically thinks the organization is held hostage by Deshaun just because of the obligation of his contract and what they potentially doing. I see Albert Breer popping in, who doesn't really pop in on a press conference tweeting about the decision of what Kevin's saying in the press conference, because that's the conversation right now that's dominating the whole thing.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen a noticeable shift in the national media coverage in the last like week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. It's either no one cares anymore because they know the team's bad, so there's nothing to talk about, like whatever,
Yeah.
or the vibe is shift from haha they're bad, Deshaun sucks, this is what you deserve, ha 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 ha, to my God, this is awful. How are they doing this? Why do the fans even deserve this? What are they doing? Please bench him for the sake of our mental health.
Yeah, because that's just what it feels like. It's not even like, I guess from their perspective, funny anymore. It's more just like, why are you doing this to yourself? Like, for all of us, we'll just put in Jameis Winston so we can at least feel good about talking about you without the stench of Deshaun hovering the franchise.
Let me feel something.
For real, though. For real. Like, it's just, that's because the game itself, there's not much to talk about. It's literally that. Like, you have Browns beat
Nothing.
writers making their case about why he should be benched. National writers doing the same thing because they've been doing it for months and years for other reasons. It's just, that's what we're talking about right now, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think any of us foresaw this level of bad coming. I don't think
No,
anyone could. Like
I don't even think the franchise thought this.
even in the
Nope.
haters' wildest dreams, they wouldn't have imagined this. Like, this is historic levels of bad. This is what got Bryce Young benched after 2 weeks, and here we are going on 7. Um, I mean, you're throwing away a season of a team that, by all accounts, is still pretty good. Like, the
Yeah, I
roster
don't.
that was voted one of the top 5 in the league by anonymous executives in the preseason didn't just stop being worth anything. Like,
It it
that's
just
what doesn't make
feels.
sense to me.
Yeah, like it just. I think for the first 4 weeks, I think we wanted to pin it on something else because it felt a little too convenient to pin it on one man. But at this point, like from an EPA standpoint, from most metrics in terms of like taking sacks, like and some of the accuracy metrics, it's like they're all bad, historically bad. Like at this point, and everybody's wondering why Kevin or AB or the whole coalition of guys is not communicated like, hey, maybe this is time to end this, you know?
Yeah, and it's getting harder and harder to defend the football decision makers. Stefanski said today that football decisions are on him. I find it hard to believe that this is the hill he's willing to die on.
At least by himself. Like, I don't think if he was willing to say what he, like, if he could take truth serum, he probably would say the opposite, but because they can't look like a front, like one guy against the organization, he can't say that probably. That's why he has to do the company line because they haven't come to that decision yet.
Well, yeah, but like, what's it gonna take?
That's what I'm saying. Like, what does there need to be? Have they had these conversations? I'm pretty sure. I don't doubt they had these conversations, but when's the limit reached? That's when I communicated in my solo pod was eventually there's going to be a breaking point. They'll say what they want, but behind closed doors, there's going to be a breaking point of where, hey, we just can't do this anymore. We can't just keep trying to beat this dead horse that we're kicking into submission at this point. And we
Maybe getting smashed by the Bengals will be that breaking point.
you would think, like at, at this point, you're not just facing the Bengals; you're going to be facing your own fans. I forget who tweeted this out. I think it was Jake Burns' co-host. I forget his name, so I apologize. But I think he said he's attending that game, and he basically put out a tweet like, "Boo at your heart's desire. Show them how you feel, because that's how I feel right now." That's where we're at.
Yeah,
Like,
I think a lot of the animosity, and I say I'm apathetic, but I think I would be right in this boat if I was like going to a game or not. I actually went to the Panthers game yesterday, if that says anything about where my mindset is with the Browns. Uh, but I think the most frustrating part is not that they're wasting a year of prime whatever, or that this was supposed to be a different year. I think it's now turned to it feels like we're being openly lied to by the organization in the sense that, like, they're not telling us a lie. Well, maybe they are by saying Deshaun Watson's the best quarterback they have. But like,
I guess it just feels like gaslighting. It
yeah,
doesn't feel
that's what it feels like. We're being told that our eyes do not actually see what our eyes are seeing.
like we feel like the dejected girlfriend who can't who's seeing one thing, but the boyfriend is like, yeah, no, that's not what it is. That's not what it is at all. And you're just like, okay, then what am I not from your perspective seeing that because that's what it feels like.
Yeah, like we're at a point where these games, they don't look any different. The offense comes out and looks the same every week, and you're not even getting the opening drive touchdown anymore. You got that for a few weeks, and now that's fallen off the face of the earth. But like it's not a good feeling to have that particular feeling about your football team, because you literally have no control over that. You're watching the film, you don't even have to watch the film most of the time, but the people that are watching the film are like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah, that like when the film came out for the Washington game, that's why I felt so disgusted, because it's like the stats were somehow like the fact that he got to those stats and he looked as bad as he did, that felt like an accomplishment. Like it just felt it was that bad.
Yeah, I mean, in the 11 of 12 for 122 in the second half the other day, I could give less of a shit.
Yeah, because it
Whatever.
didn't like sure
Didn't
like that
materialize
should
into anything.
yeah, if it materialized into a touchdown to give them the lead, then it would have felt different. Like at least it would have felt a semblance of a difference.
It's something tangible to like have that last hope grasp onto. Like beating the Eagles in Philadelphia, even though they're arguably as big of a dumpster fire internally somehow as the Browns.
Yeah, like it doesn't feel like talent wise they're being held back. It just feels like something in Philly. It's a completely different issue than the Browns, but at least talent wise, that it doesn't feel like that's their issue. Like they like, but it's just that's where we're at. It's just like something in the process is not working. Either the quarterback is just that bad, or like it, and hopefully Winston giving them a different look changes. It makes it a lot easier to grasp for fans, or it's just the whole ship is completely about to sink. You know what I mean? Like it, because if that's their idea, if what we're telling us is like from these pressers, like, hey, he's the best, what we got, then what are we doing here? You know, like if Winston,
if he's the best that we've got, then why is Myles Garrett still out there? Why is Joe Batonio still out there?
and
Because it's if you're gonna tank, just tank.
yeah, like, and by the looks of the players and by the way that they're playing, sometimes it feels like that, because I think they all, even though they'll say that the right things in the pressers, like, do you feel that they feel confident in Deshaun outside of their words?
No, no,
Yeah.
and
They've been around him longer than we have. We're just seeing this. They probably have been dealing with this since OTAs. Like, you know what I mean?
yeah. I mean, there was the reports that came out in the summer that nothing looked right, and we didn't. I mean, obviously, we were kind of lost in the whole. Oh, it's just the preseason. They'll be fine. Blah blah blah. Whatever. But like, that's kind of coming true at this point, and feels prophetic. And I don't know. I just that I don't feel like anything's going to be worth watching until they make the change, because they keep saying that things are gonna that this is the best option they have, and things are gonna improve, and things are improving in practice, and but Sundays all look the same. Like they're and maybe Nick Chubb patches some of those holes, and but there's only so much Nick Chubb can do, and there's only so much
Yeah.
you can put on him, because he's not going to be 100% ready to go out of the gate. He's going to need some time, and
Yeah. And that just is unfortunate, because when Nick Chubb coming back should feel triumphant, it shouldn't feel like you're trying to save a dying ship or try to salvage a quarterback that looks as helpless as he has at times. Like that. Like I think I was trying to make this point with Andrew in the Discord, where like, yeah, sure, like your playmakers will get to their numbers eventually, because they'll be get the lion's share of the targets. But like what we're seeing now is the effects of a really bad quarterback dragging down the other guys, like Elijah Moore, Judy, and like all these other guys. Like, do you feel like you can get a proper evaluation of what we're seeing from those
No.
guys. From what we're
No, and
that's what I mean.
this is the same reason they benched Bryce Young here, because they didn't feel like they were going to be able to evaluate the offense in any meaningful sense with the quarterback struggling as much as they were. So that's where we're at, and we're going to go on. We're going to go into the 7th week of it. We got 3 games at home. You're facing the Bengals, who you've beaten pretty soundly in almost every game you've played them. That meant something. You're playing the Ravens, who might hang 50 at this rate, because the offense is going to not be able to stay on the field.
Yeah, like it just. I mean, yeah, like we're going on 6-7 weeks of this, and like if what we're seeing is going to go at the rate it's going, then like even the Bengals, who have had their struggles against us, will eventually win that game, and then the Ravens will win by 50 because they are on their best day a machine, because that's just how they play. And back to what you were saying about like it doesn't feel worth watching just because of simply Deshaun. It just feels that, because like we're being like gaslit into this feeling of like not believing what we're seeing. Like the quarterback looks helpless, and until that change is made, even if it's more just a symbolic change of like, hey, we can't do this anymore with Jameis trotting out 1 week. That's just feels like where we're at. Like we can't really talk about the games. We haven't even talked about the game because of what's
to hell with
like,
the game.
Yeah,
It's all been the same shit.
like it's been the same shit. Like it's just that's all that we can go off of, because it's like I said, the QB is dragged everything down to the point where the conversation is just the QB, and until that change is made, that's all we're going to talk about. Because like, what else can we go off of?
There's nothing to go off of. Every game that they've played since Jacksonville has basically been the same. They gave up a few more points to Washington because Washington has a better offense. But Jacksonville, ugly game. They won because the Jags might be the worst team in the league. Well, the Patriots are probably still worse. But Giants game, ugly, low scoring, offense couldn't do anything. Raiders game, ugly, low scoring, offense couldn't do what it needed to win. Eagles game, ugly, low scoring, offense couldn't do what it needed to win. Actually, offense didn't score any points. The special team scored everything.
Yeah,
Special team scored everything in against the Raiders too, I think.
Yeah,
or no, the offense scored a touchdown.
I'll at least give credit to the defense for at least still trying to keep them in the game, and special teams and when they've had opportunities. Like, but other than that, yeah, it's just been so lifeless. And so like we're recording this, I see on Tankathon we're number 2. We're number 2.
Yeah.
Like it's just like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here?
Nothing good.
Man, oh man.
I mean, it's just exhausting to the point where, like, bad seasons are exhausting in their own right. I think we got through the 2022 season. There were some great moments. There were some great moments. There were some bad moments. There were some frustrating moments. But you never felt like you went into the week without a chance to win.
Yeah.
Last week they had a few there was a few games where we thought there was no hope. They won one of them. Because that's what you do in the NFL. If you're a good team, you win games you're not supposed to. This year, there's no hope because you go out there and you see the same offense every week. Amari Cooper seems to have lost a step in and we talked about this in the Discord. over the offseason, and now it kind of feels prophetic. We talked about the absolute cliff that Jarvis Landry fell off in his last year with the Browns when he was ultimately, I think, cut or trade. Or no, he had his last year with the Browns and it was okay. He had the bad game against Pittsburgh and never really recovered from that. He was cut in the offseason, went to Miami, and completely fell out of the league.
Yeah.
That's where Amari Cooper is. It feels like they hit the wall. And I'm glad, at this point, the Browns made a good decision not to extend him. Because could you imagine being stuck with this for another 3 years?
No, and I imagine once they have an opportunity to trade him, I could see him be traded, and sure, he might look good for a little bit, say if he's in KC or whatever, but even then it's he might just be the third wide receiver, second wide receiver, depending on where he goes to, just because he's lost a little bit of a step. And he's probably looked a little bit worse than that just because of what he's had to deal with at quarterback. There's been times where I feel like he doesn't look this bad, but he's maybe lost a step, but he doesn't look this bad.
Yeah. I mean, we only had to wait 3 plays yesterday for us to see just another example of Amari Cooper fading. The sad part is that if he gets traded to Kansas City, we're going to have to see him in December. And he'll probably have 8 catches for 110 yards and a touchdown. But
yeah,
it's... I don't know. I mean, Nick Chubb isn't going to change enough that things are fixed.
Yeah, not by himself. He can't be seen as the hero to this offense. There's a bigger problem than that. And unfortunately, it's the quarterback, and he's dragging everybody down. I feel like I keep saying that, but it's been true for all 6 weeks. He hasn't thrown for over 200 yards. I think he's maybe had 1-2 touchdown performance. Other than that, it's been very much just blah. And even that feels generous by itself.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the worst part is losing the faith in the organization that had been built up over 4 years. You felt, even though they made the Deshaun Watson trade, even if it kept going down the path that it seemed to be going down prior to the season, where maybe things aren't going to work out, you trusted them to figure their way out of it, and that they would work their way out of it if they needed to, like they did last year when he wasn't around. And the fact that they are so gung-ho on sticking with this plan, it's just hard to believe that this is what they believe is best. And I don't want to get conspiratorial, but it makes you wonder if they're sending him out there to look as bad as he is to prove a point.
Yeah, at this point, I can understand why people feel that. In my opinion, I think they'll eventually reach a breaking point because, how much longer can you take? But I can understand if you're if you're just tinfoil hat here, thinking are they just trying to prove a point? Is Jimmy just doing this gun to their head? No way out? Even if ultimately they come to that decision somewhere down the line, I can understand right now why some people feel that way.
Yeah. It's not a tenable situation. And you're going to lose more and more guys in the locker room the longer you start him. And I don't know, the longer you let this go, I don't know if you're going to be able to get those guys back. Let's say you drag this out to week 9 or 10 before you make the call, and the team is 2-8 or 1-9, and you've basically wasted a year of their career. I don't know if you're going to get those guys back. And at that point, you've lost the locker room. And at that point, it's hard to justify anyone coming back.
Yeah, I guess it just depends on how they'll eventually handle it. Like I mentioned in the Discord, is just how they handle it will define how Kevin and AB survive or not survive ultimately. Like if they come to this decision relatively quickly, like say next week is just their breaking point, and they say, you know what, Jimmy, that like we've tried. It like Deshaun is at a point at no return. Here's the case why, blah blah blah, and Jimmy agrees. Then they'll probably survive it. But if say like it is Kevin and AB that are as gung ho about it, then I can understand why Jimmy's like, then why am I keep financing this? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I doubt they would cut him mid-season. But
Yeah, like I imagine if they do eventually bench him, it'll probably have to be sometime in the offseason next year where they have to restructure, and like he probably would want to play somewhere else because obviously I don't think he would want to not stop playing. But yeah, it'd probably be a messy exit, I would say.
yeah, I mean, there was no way that if this thing didn't work, that it wasn't going to end in a messy way. Um, it's just frustrating.
Yeah, and I don't blame anybody. Like I don't blame my friends who are probably checked out at this point and not even watching games on Sunday. I don't blame family members. I don't blame anybody right now. Like the fact that we're watching it, we're probably masochists, but we're that. But at this point, it's just we're servicing you guys, like whoever's listening. We're trying to service you, and even that feels like a chore.
Yeah, I mean, I literally, the half an hour between me getting off of work and getting on my computer to do this, I I sat there and I was like trying to psych myself up for even doing this.
Yeah, to
Like,
like put
it
it
shouldn't
to
be
put
that way.
yeah to put it in perspective. We didn't even really talk. We were just like, let's just get this over with. You know, let's just rip the Band-Aid off. We've been putting this off long enough, and that was just because that's where we're
And
at.
and the game doesn't even matter.
Yeah, like what? Yeah, like you're if you're tuning in, you're probably not here to listen to the game because why would you? It's been the same 5 or 6 weeks that we've been seeing. Would you want to talk about the game? Like, no, we have to talk about what's the elephant in the room right now in Berea, and that's unfortunately the quarterback and their decision, and like just about everybody that's in the orbit of the Browns. That's the main conversation.
Yeah, and without any change, we're probably going to see more of the same this weekend. I mean, Nick Chubb has pretty much thoroughly dominated the Bengals when they've needed him to in this career, but I would be shocked if if Nick Chubb has more than 12, 13 carries, if that, on Sunday.
Yeah, like I at least hope when he does make his entrance at the stadium that they at least give him his moment. Because other than that, it might be an ugly day. So at least cherish that moment that he's back on the field. Because, like, even if like him being back is miraculous, I know we've talked about Deshaun, like Nick Chubb coming back from that injury in Pittsburgh, like even stepping on the field, no matter how he looks the rest of the year, that's miraculous. From all the injuries that he's dealt with in his career dating back to college, that is just miraculous.
Yeah, I just I saw a tweet earlier today or yesterday when about next week's game, and they're like, "Well, I hope they're introducing the defense next week." And I'm like, "Well, sure, yeah, normally you would do that, but you're also bringing back Nick Chubb, and you're not going to have him run out of the tunnel. But having him do that means you're going to have Deshaun Watson at some point." run out of the tunnel.
Yeah.
And
that
I don't think
also
it'll be pretty. I think you might have a team's starting quarterback get booed out of the tunnel by
I wouldn't
the
be
home
shocked.
fans.
Like
I almost think it's more likely to happen than the alternative.
Yeah, because what other what other ways can they voice their frustration other than literally booing them at the stadium? Like the Browns fans have put up with a lot, and like this is the least they can do at this point. I don't even blame them. I'm not even a person that boos my own team, but I don't even blame fans right now because of how visibly frustrated they've been, and like and with all we've had to put up with these last 3 years with the quarterback, I can't. There's no way around it.
No, I mean, there's definitely the feeling that a lot of us didn't really want him here to begin with, and now the end of I think everyone's kind of made up. If you haven't made up your mind at this point, I don't know what you're watching, but everyone's moved on, and he never really deserved cheers anyway.
Yeah, like I was when I talked about it by myself. It's one thing if the contract doesn't work out. It's one thing if it's like a Russell Wilson contract where Russ sure has his weird quirks and antics, but for the most part, he's a likable guy. Deshaun really has never embraced the community or has had the self-awareness to do the things necessary to give them an olive branch. And so whatever like bridge was there is burnt. It's burnt to a crisp. And right now everybody's just trying to push him to the other end like of the border of the city because that's just where the fans are right now.
Eastlake can have him. Lakewood can have him. Actually,
no,
you know what? Actually, you know what? Erie, PA can have him.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say Lakewood don't deserve that. Like, no, Erie, PA.
Ashtabula, you're getting there. But no, Pennsylvania can have him.
Yeah, at this point, PA, Canada, that's all yours, man. It's all yours.
I don't even. The unfortunate part is I'm sitting there and I'm like, what team would even trade for him right now? And I'm like, oh my god, the Panthers might.
And even then, the Panthers wouldn't subject them to that, like because of the scrutiny. Because
I think the fans would be in more open revolt than Cleveland at this point if they traded, because the dislike for Tepper is stronger here than the dislike for Haslam. Believe it or not.
I believe it because just how that franchise has been run as of late, and like even with temperament. Say that 3 times fast, and the way he's just the moves that they made in the past 3 years. It's just been a dumpster fire. I can understand why Carolina fans are pissed.
Yeah, and it's not only the football fans, it's soccer fans too. I mean, the soccer team's been a lot better this year, but they had 3 coaches in their first 2 seasons.
My God, wow.
It was a rough time. But it's just it's unbelievable that we've gotten to this point, and it's unbelievable we haven't moved on from this point. I think that's the most unbelievable part.
Yeah,
because it just doesn't match with the MO we thought we had with this team. With the coaching staff and with the front office. It doesn't gel with the prior data that we had.
Yeah, I agree, because we know they're smarter than this, and I know that there is probably why that it's taking so long is because of the contract and like the necessary levers that have to be pushed. But at this point, I think they just have to just read the room and understand what they're dealing with, and not just try to prolong it any longer.
At some point, the contract is no longer an excuse.
Yeah.
At some point, you have an obligation to the other 52 guys on the roster.
Yeah, and we know in the NFL it's easy to rip up a contract and figure out how to get out of it.
This isn't the longest yard. You can't just have the line's just gonna not block for the quarterback for 3 plays and let him get drilled. Like this isn't backyard football where there's mob rules. Like they don't have that ability. They can't go in open revolt. The team cannot do that.
At least at this point, it's not there. But I mean, they're at least feeling like they're looking dejected. They at least understand what they're dealing with, but they at least aren't in open revolt that we know of.
We don't know what the locker room is like.
Yeah,
we don't know what the guys inside it are saying.
Yeah, it's just until they make the necessary move, we're just gonna be stuck in this merry-go-round forever. Like me, it's like the Joker. You and me are just destined to keep doing this forever.
Yeah, I hope not. I hope that there's some good
then
football.
We probably
on the
wouldn't
horizon.
have a podcast at this point because you wouldn't even show up.
I mean, I don't want to quit.
I guess the one good thing is the Guardians have been at least a decent distraction. They've been at least a decent distraction. So,
yeah, yes, but unlike others in our Discord, the hierarchy for me is not one where I'm going to be able to completely just brush the Browns off the table and focus completely on the Guardians. Like,
oh no, I'm not. I'm not that type of person either.
Football is my top priority, and then everything else. So, yes, I'm gonna watch the Guardians and be all happy for it tonight. But regardless of what happens with them tonight, I'm still gonna wake up tomorrow and be like, "What the fuck is this Browns team?" Like,
no, for sure, because like that, you should feel like that. Like, sure, on my hierarchy, it's Guardians, Browns, and Cavs, and then it kind of depending on the season, it's Cavs, Browns, whatever. But like, I totally understand your frustration, and most Browns centric Cleveland fans are feeling this way, and we should not like try to ignore the problem because it's that big of a deal. It like sure it's nice that the Guardians are a decent distraction, but the big problem, since we are a Browns podcast, is the thing we unfortunately have to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, the unfortunate part is I'm not sure that this team deserves attention. I think they deserve the apathy. I think if Haslam is forcing this to happen, he deserves the apathy. If
I agree,
the front office is forcing this to happen, they deserve the apathy. If Stefanski is forcing this to happen, what the hell happened to him? Because that doesn't check out with anything he's done in the past, and he's probably going to be fired. Like,
yeah, that I guess that's where we're trying to figure out what's the next step, because eventually there's going to be a step being made, because none of this checks out from what we know of these guys. Maybe Haslam, but even then, I don't think he's this hard-headed,
No, like, I mean, this would be a return to, like, pre-Hugh Jackson form, when he was super involved in everything and drafting Johnny Manziel. Like, he's, as much as the fan base writ large has enjoyed ragging on Jimmy Haslam in the, what are we on, 11 years of him owning the team?
Has it been 11 years? Wow.
11 or 12, I don't know, something like that. The last 3 to 4 years, he's largely gotten out of the way and let the people who know what they're doing run the show, and he's just signed the checks, and it's made him one of them. Like, while people are quick to turn on him, he became not a topic.
Yeah.
And that's what you want out of your owner. You want them not to be a topic.
Yeah, I think he has done the necessary things when he felt like the right people were involved, and he's gotten out of the way and just done normal owner things. But because of what he's done in the first half of his ownership, that's why people are concerned. That's why people jump to those conclusions. That's another thing I brought up in the Discord, is that perception that even if with the recent success they've had, it's just that overlooming, is Jimmy just going to break out of this, like, quote unquote, like uninvolvement that he's currently in because of reasons. And we don't know what those reasons are, but there's reasons. But we don't know that. That's why we feel so frustrated, because we're in the dark of what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, it certainly would be on brand for Jimmy Haslam to say, no, you're going to start him until I say you're not starting him because we're paying him all this money. But at some point, you're doing yourself a disservice. And I think we crossed that after last week. And
probably Washington, when most people kind of were just completely off the bandwagon at that point.
Yeah. After last week, I think we hit that point. And now we're just dragging a dead horse. We're not even beating the dead horse. We're just dragging it along. We're just dragging it behind a.
Yeah, we're dragging it behind us and acting like it's sleeping.
You know those Smart for Two cars, the tiny little things.
Yeah.
Yeah, we hooked a horse up to one of those, and we're attempting to drag it. That's what it feels like watching this team.
And we're telling people, yeah, that the horse is sleeping. It's like Weekend at Bernie's. It's like except it's a horse.
Yeah.
That's even more disturbing when you think about it.
Yeah. Weekend at Bernie's wins Kentucky Derby. Need a horse named Weekend at Bernie's now.
Imagine if that was the horse and it was actually dead and everybody believed it was real.
Oh my god.
We've jumped too deep into the wormhole now.
the team has driven us to a truly insane place.
But can you blame us? Can you blame us?
No, I can't. But I'm shocked we've gotten 45 minutes out of this.
It's felt a little cathartic. I don't know about you, but it's felt cathartic every time I've had to talk about it, because at least I'm getting my feelings out there at this point.
Helps a little. Just a little, though.
It makes you at least feel 5-10% better. So that at least helps.
Yeah, and we'll have to rehash it all again on Thursday.
Oh God!
Yay.
Gotta wrangle Gerbs back into this. He's in his own universe now, which thank God for him for his sanity.
Yeah, his birthday was on Sunday, and he had to watch all that shit.
He did say he did have a massage, so at least wait. Never mind, but never. Maybe we should never bring up massages ever again.
No, I wanna focus on exactly one number 4 in Cleveland, and maybe a second every now and then. If Rocchio can keep hitting the ball like he is, he can be the second number 4. But
and if Evan Mobley, like in the first preseason game, shows what he did is not a fluke, then we can focus on that number 4.
He is the number 4.
Mm-hmm.
And Phil Dawson can have his number back.
Yeah, okay, that's at least. Yeah,
we're gonna get out of here before we say anything stupid.
Like we haven't already.
But we will be back on Thursday. With Gerbs, we'll have the full lineup for the first time in 2 weeks. And we'll talk about whatever Sunday's going to bring us with the Bengals game. I don't think it'll be pretty, but we'll get there. So for Matt Milner, I am Taylor Jedrzak. This has been a very existent episode of BrownsCast recap. Until
it's
Thursday.
A podcast that exists.
Until Thursday. Go Browns.
Go Browns, I guess.
Go Guardians. Yeah, they deserve our attention.
All right. Enough stalling.